Good. The recording has started. Salvete omnes. Hello, everybody. Good evening, good day, good night. Thanks to all those that are joining us live here in our very first forum on the Religio Romana and Cultus Deorum. And hello to everybody that will be watching this recording in the future. These forums, and this is the first of the forums of hopefully quite what will be regular for the province, which is designed to help educate and provide a forum of discussion on the Roman religion and I guess how we can grow the use, the practice, and the knowledge and understanding of the Cultus Deorum Romanum throughout the region. There's certainly lots of people that are interested. There are a lot of cultors and practitioners out there, and I guess it's always good as a good citizen of Nova Roma to have a good understanding, regardless, to fully integrate ourselves with our Nova Roma society. We're very privileged this evening to have a special guest as well, Publius Aurelius Barbatus, who's joined us very early hours from the US, and we thank him for that. On what is a special occasion, the Ludi Romani, which is fantastic. It's fallen at a great time of year, and it certainly links to the subject matter with that as well. So all things fun and dandy. So here, I guess, let us introduce our speaker, and I'll hand over to him straight away. He's got a fantastic presentation lined up for us to give us a bit of an introduction into the subject and sort of set the stage for us. So Publius Aurelius Barbatus, he's been a polytheist for about over a decade. He first came to the Cultus Deorum Romanum through his worship of Hercules, and he has been a citizen of Nova Roma for about 2 years now. But it feels like longer. I mean, you're so involved in Nova Roma and Nova Roma society. It certainly feels a lot longer. So yeah, not about the same period of time as me, roughly. But in that time, he's extensively studied as a Camillus, which is like a priest in training, and I guess we can hear and talk more about that over the course of tonight. And under the guidance of some of Nova Roma's senior religious officials, Hortensia Faustina and Gnaeus Cornelius Lentulus. And it is his eventual goal to be a sacerdos, or a priest of Hercules, and no doubt he'll attain that sooner rather than later. So Publius Aurelius has also served Nova Roma twice as duribator, as well as participating and placing in several ludi, which is actually really good. So great participation there, and I certainly encourage everybody else in the current Ludi Romani to participate in both the question and quizzes, and there's a chariot race out there as well. For those that are interested in participating, if you're watching this in the very near future, just head to the main page of the novaroma.org website, and there's links to all the activities going on for the current Ludi there. So get involved. It'll be very exciting. He's also currently a Treasury Tribune Equestrian and a Praetor Equestor to Gnaeus Cornelius Barbatus, my current partner in crime, Praetor for Nova Roma. He's also a Quaestor to Provincia America. Let's see if I can get this pronunciation right. Mississippiana, one of the provinces based in North America, under the governorship, still currently of Hortensia Faustina. So great record, great track record there, lots of participation. So without further delay, I'll now hand over to you, to the great Publius Aurelius. Thank you very much for joining us. The stage is yours.
Well, thank you for the warm welcome. I'm very happy to be here and talk about Cultus Deorum. It's a subject I'm very enthusiastic about. So let's get started. So I think you already gave me a much better welcome than I could ever give myself, so I appreciate that. You covered everything I had on this slide, so let's keep going. So this morning I'm going to talk about the core concepts of the Cultus Deorum, and I'm going to then go into some essentials of sacrifice for getting you started in your own home, and then if we have time at the end, we can do some questions. So let's go right into core concepts of the Cultus Deorum. And I have had a little bit of coaching on my Latin pronunciation. I apologize if it still appears quite poor. I do what I can.
That's right. There's no experts in Latin here, so yeah, you'll be well placed. I think you'll probably do better than us.
Great. So the term religio romana just means the Roman religion. It's the name that is commonly applied to this religion, but we have another name as well that I certainly prefer, and I know a lot of other practitioners do. Let's take a look at that. So it starts with the word cultus, which just means the established rites and customs of worship. The Cultus Deorum Romanorum means the cult of the Roman gods, or you could say the established rites and customs of worshiping the Roman gods. And this is the name that I prefer for the religion. I think it more encapsulates the spirit of the religion. Is it okay if I put it in this view so I can see my notes?
Yeah, not a problem at all. Yeah, that's easy.
Okay,
yep.
Great. So CDR isn't a monolith in the way a lot of religions are today. It's a collection of related practices with common customs and ritual observances. We don't have a central dogma, and adherents are free to explore the rich landscape of the gods and their cults. It's also not a stagnant religion. Throughout Roman history, you see how it evolved and adapted. It's very porous. Rome was all the time adapting new cults and experimenting with new ideas and deities. But whenever that happened, it always kept the same the same core beliefs and practices. So even when they adopted a new god or a new religious idea, they would do so in a very Roman way and then according to Roman religious law. So it's not as strict about what gods you can and can't worship. They would worship all sorts of gods. They would just do so in a very Roman way, and we can do this today as well. Someone who practices CDR is called a cultor or cultrix, the plural being cultores. So I try not to use terms like Roman pagan. That's more of a modern term. I prefer to refer to myself as a cultor. So CDR is a polytheistic and animistic religion. These are two of the fundamental ideas in this religion. So we are polytheist. The world is full of gods. We worship primarily the gods of ancient Rome, but acknowledge that there are more gods than we can count. Some have more influence than others, and some have stronger influence in certain places. The concept of drawing a neat little box around cultural groups and their gods and calling that a pantheon is a modern idea. The ancient polytheists of Europe took their gods wherever they went and often brought back foreign gods with them from their travels. So we have archaeological evidence of situations like a Roman soldier at Hadrian's Wall in Britannia erecting an altar to the Egyptian goddess Isis. Romans readily adopted foreign gods and adapted their worship to the Roman customs. So we're not just restricted to a handful of gods. We can explore lots of them, but in order to still be considered within CDR, we just have to do so in a way that respects the traditions of Rome. We're also animist, which means that we believe everything has a divine aspect, even if just a tiny spark. So the gods are noumena of great power and influence. These divine spirits we call noumena, or singular noumen, and we believe everything around us has one. Even the smallest rock has maybe even just a tiny spark of divinity. So there can be a god of a place that is specific to that place, but we see the divinity in everything. But we just reserve worship and sacrifice for the important noumena. We don't sacrifice to every rock and tree and doorknob, because that would be really excessive. So we acknowledge that divinity, but we only worship and sacrifice to the important beings. So this is another important idea. CDR is an orthopraxic religion. This means that one is free to believe however they like. Importance. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Orthodoxy means correct belief. One must believe certain things to be a part of their religion. So a lot of modern religions, such as Christianity, tend to be orthodoxic. You have to believe the correct thing. There's also orthopraxic, which means that you can believe however you like, but you just have to conduct the correct actions in ritual to be a certain part of the religion. CDR is an orthopraxic religion, so you can believe however you want to. The importance is on the correct performances of the sacrifice. So things like the nature of the gods and how the universe came to be. In ancient Rome, those were seen as the realm of the philosopher, not religious. Religion is focused on correctly performing the sacrifices. That's the most important thing. As long as the sacrifices are performed correctly, you can believe whatever you want. So, and we can have a deep philosophical conversation about all these things, but at the end of the day, that's philosophy, not religion. It's okay to be interested in both, but when we're in the realm of religion, we try not to bring philosophy into it, because that can muddy the conversation. You can have a deep relationship with the gods, free of all philosophical considerations. Myself, I'm a very simple guy. The universe exists. I don't try and get over worried with how. I just do my duty and sacrifice to the gods and build a relationship with them through that. The Latin word pius means pious and devout. In ancient Rome, to be pius meant to be someone who gives the gods their due by correctly performing the sacrifices. So piety is knowing how to sacrifice. CDR is a Reconstructionist religion. Many people have different ideas about Reconstructionists versus Revivalists, but we're Reconstructionists. And when I say that, I mean we seek to practice CDR as closely as possible to the way it was done in the past. Society has made a lot of social and technological progress since the age of antiquity. And when I say that, I don't mean to suggest that progress is linear, because societies progress and regress, throughout time. It's not linear. It's very cyclical. But the period we're in now, we have a lot of technological progress, and social progress. For instance, in the past, with a few exceptions, the priesthood were men only. The Collegium Pontificum were mostly men, I think, with the exception of the head Vestal Virgin had a seat, but that was it. These days in Nova Roma, anyone can be a sacerdos or hold a high religious office. So when I say that we've made progress, I mean things like that. But the customs and the ritual forms of CDR were developed through centuries of trial and error by our Roman ancestors. They figured out what the gods like, what they don't like, what they accept, and what they prefer by trying different things, seeing how the gods responded to the sacrifices, and writing down what worked. That is the basis for religious law in Rome, and they very conservatively change things, because if you find something that works, that continues to work, why change it? It's doing just fine. So our Roman ancestors did all the hard work for us, figuring these things out. Right? That's such a gift that they passed on to us. So we should treasure it and be careful with how we handle it. We should not change things just because we feel like it. We should try and do things as closely to they did as makes sense. Because the thing that they were concerned with in Rome was Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods. So this is a reciprocal relationship where the gods maintain the welfare of Rome and its citizens, and in return, the people perform the proper sacrifices to the gods. When I say the people, it was typically the priesthood performing the sacrifices on behalf of all of Rome for the benefit of the people. So the heart of Roman religion is the Latin phrase do ut des, I give that you might give. So this is a religion of reciprocity. Sacrifices are not to bribe the gods, right? You shouldn't go into it with that attitude. This isn't a bribe. This isn't buying their goodwill. This is maintaining a relationship. The gods bestow their blessings on us, and we make sacrifices in return to them to show our gratitude. It's not simply a transaction. It's building a relationship through giving and receiving again and again. The two main areas of CDR are Sacra Publica, which is the public cults. These are the cults of the state, organized by the Collegium Pontificum, the Collegium Pontificum, and the priesthoods. They're in charge of upkeeping the public temples and doing the annual sacrifices at the temples and the altars. And they make these sacrifices on behalf of all Roman citizens and the state. So the priesthoods are in charge of keeping Rome and all its citizens in the good graces of the gods. So when you see Cornelius Lentulus doing all these sacrifices, if you're a citizen, you are one of the beneficiaries of this sacrifice. He's doing so on your behalf and behalf of all the other citizens. The other area is Sacra Privata, which is the private practice of your own home. it's the household worship of the gods. It's traditionally led by the pater familias, or the mater familias, and that's just whoever's the head of the family. Each household was free to worship any gods in their own way, so long as it didn't interfere with the Sacra Publica. So in Sacra Publica, there's a lot of restrictions on how you must do a sacrifice. The priests must follow this exactly, because Pax Deorum is at stake. They do things exactly because they want to follow the formulas, because they know this will please the gods. So they have to be very careful. They don't want to commit any mistakes, because all of Rome is involved in that sacrifice. When you're doing it just in your own home, that's just you and your family. So you don't have to be as strict. Citizens can worship whatever gods they wish in their own home. So I said that we don't have strict rules for household worship, but traditional Roman families of ancient Rome modeled their private worship after the public ritual. They knew these forms worked. They knew they were acceptable to the gods. So they saw this as a safe and pious way to conduct private worship. I advise you all to do the same if you want to practice CDR. Try and keep your rituals as closely to the original format as you can within reason. Like, for example, in the public sacrifices in Nova Roma, we do all of our sacrifices in Latin. You don't have to do that at home. English or whatever language you speak in the home is just fine. And you can sacrifice things like incense and wine. We'll talk about that in a bit. I don't expect anyone to be in their backyard sacrificing an entire bowl or anything like that. You don't need to go that far. Did anyone have a question so far?
None from me, but there'll be another opportunity at the end of the presentation as well for questions. Unless there's somebody else who's live who wants to jump in with a question right now. If not, we can capture it in the chat if you'd like to continue going forwards. But yeah, good so far.
Sure, great. So I'd like to take a second to plug the Ludi Romani that are taking place right now. One way that all citizens can publicly honor the gods is through participation in ludi, or games. These are held in honor of a specific god. Currently, we're celebrating the Ludi Romani, which are in honor of Jupiter Optimus Maximus. So there's all sorts of events going on throughout the world. Romerfest, Provincia Germania in Austria, the Elfia Festival, Provincia Gallia in Netherlands. They're doing all sorts of things. Citizens are holding private and public rituals and events all over. So check out the socials if you want to see what's going on. And I encourage you all to participate, because that is one of the best ways for citizens to get involved in the public cult. And participation in these ludi are seen as a act that is honoring the gods. So Cornelius Lentulus will often say, if you participate in these festivals, then feel free to ask the gods for a favor or their blessings, because participating is almost like a form of sacrifice. So I encourage everyone, jump on in. Okay. Next, let's talk about sacrificial essentials for household worship. So if you want to get started in your own home, what do you do? Right? You understand some of the concepts now. Where do you go from there? So a typical household ceremony involves worshiping several groups. You have your lares, which are the noumena of your, like your hearth, your home, your property. They're the spirits tied to the land where your house is. You can almost think of them like caretakers or guardians of your property. They're tied specifically to the land. So when you move houses, they stay behind, and you start a relationship with the lares of the new place that you move to. So these are small deities that are just specific to your house. That's the first group. Your second group, manes, these are your ancestors who are no longer living. So the ancient Romans had a different conception of the soul than a lot of modern religions, and that's kind of philosophy, so we're not going to fully get into that. But you can think the manes as the genie of your ancestors, right? Their divine aspect that when they pass away lives on. So we make sacrifices to our ancestors with that in mind. Now, remember, in ancient Rome, adoption was really common. So your ancestors can include your adopted family as well. It's my own personal practice to call my biological relatives ancestors of blood, and my adoptive family ancestors of choice. You don't have to make any distinction. That's just how I like to think about them. But they're all ancestors. I think they're all equally important. They all played a role in you being here today. So it's very important to honor your ancestors. As Romans, our Roman ancestors built this relationship with the gods, and it's important to honor them in addition to the gods. Now, the third category is what a lot of people think of when they think of household worship, penates. This category gets its name from the room inside the homes in ancient Rome that were used to store food. And originally, penates referred to as like just the spirits that guarded that room. But by the late Republic, that had changed to mean the specific named gods that were the patrons of your household, such as Mars or Juno. Household penates were usually determined by family tradition and or vocation. So a Roman who was a blacksmith would probably have Vulcanus as a penate, while a baker would probably worship Vesta. Like if your family had a tradition for generations of worshiping, say, Venus, then you would probably continue including her in your penates, just because that's your family tradition. Now, for us today, you can choose your penates based on your vocation, your interests, your hobbies, or even just a deity that you feel particularly drawn to. And they don't have to stay the same. It's very natural for them to change throughout your lifetime, depending on your situation, your job, or whatever is just important to you at that time. Someone who is young and a student might have Minerva as a penate, but then when they graduate, stop including her among their penates, and that's fine. That's normal. You don't have to worry about a deity getting upset because you choose to remove them from your household worship or jealous. The Roman gods don't really work that way. If you remove them from your household worship and add another god, that's perfectly fine, and that's very common. I recommend choosing at least 3 penates, but no more than 6, or else your rituals are going to get really long. I recommend people cap it at 6. So I'll give you an example. My penates are Minerva, because I'm in grad school and I work at a university, and she's a patron to scholars, so I include her. Hercules, because he's a deity that governs health and physical fitness, and weightlifting is a hobby of mine. He was a patron of commerce, and business is my field of study, so that's another reason I include him. And he was seen as a protector of the wellness of young children, especially boys, and I have a son, so Hercules is very important to my household. Vesta, because I love cooking and baking and generally just being cozy at home in front of the fireplace. And Diana, because she's been my wife's patron for a long time, and as the pater familias, it's my duty to keep the whole household in good standing with our patrons. So although before I met my wife, I didn't have any strong relationship with her. With Diana, it's my duty as head of the household to include her and honor her. And of course, my wife honors her on her own as well, but I always include her in our sacrifices. And the last category, Genius or Iuno, of the paterfamilias and materfamilias. That's specifically your divine spirit and seen as the divine spirit of the family, since you are the head of the family. So the Genius, or for women, they use the term Iuno, which is the exact same idea, just for women. You make a sacrifice to them, and if you have a spouse, then you also sacrifice to their Genius or Iuno, depending. So yeah, Lares, Manes, Penates, and Genius or Iuno. Those are the groups that you would commonly sacrifice in household worship. I know that's a lot to cover in one slide, but if you have any questions at the end. So, what tools do you need? So, first, a Lararium, which means the place of the Lares. This is where the household worship takes place. You can think of it as your own small temple or altar in your own home, with images and or statues of your Lares and Penates. I know some people will keep photos of important ancestors that they like to pray to there as well. But yeah, images of your Lares and your Penates are very common. So I'll show you a few examples. The one on the left and the one on the right are examples or recreations that we have from ancient Rome, Lauraria, that have survived. And the one in the center is a modern Laurarium from Arcs in Poltava. So you can purchase one like this, but it doesn't have to be so elaborate. You can start out with just photo that you printed, and a few of these other tools. So start small and build up from there. You need a candle or an oil lamp. This flame represents the sacred flame of Vesta in your own home. You can use a candle you get at the store or even the thrift store for these religious tools, but I think it's important to get the best quality that you can afford and reserve them explicitly for religious use. I use my candle just for my altar. I don't use it for a candlelit dinner or anything like that. I think it'd be pretty disrespectful to use a dish to offer wine and then turn around and rinse it out and eat cereal out of it. Like you should take these things and reserve them for religious use out of respect. It's a good idea to have an incense box and some incense. Pictured here, you see resin incense, which is what they would have traditionally used in ancient Rome. But if you can't find that, it's perfectly fine to use incense sticks or incense cones. Frankincense is the best to get because these pieces of resin here are frankincense, and that's what was most commonly used. And then you're going to want to get an incense holder for it. Something made of brass like this would have been pretty traditional, but even a bowl with some sand in it to put a hot coal to put the resin on, or to put the incense sticks or a cone. You can get these at a lot of esoteric shops, but just a nice bowl with a little bit of sand in it will work just fine. You're going to need something to offer food and liquid offerings. So get an offering dish. The one you see here on the left is the traditional shape of an offering dish called a patera, but you can use any sort of bowl that you can find. Just make sure it's nice, because you're going to be pouring wine and or placing food in there as part of your offerings. You want something to hold your liquid sacrifices. Traditionally they would have used a container similar to the one on the left, but any bottle specifically for the wine you're going to use in your rituals is fine. What you see here on the right is something intended for olive oil, but I actually found a really nice one of those, and I use that. So it doesn't have to specifically look like this. Just a designated container to hold your wine. So you can use it for pouring out in your offerings. Yes, so wine or milk for libations. You can use milk as well. So traditionally, male deities receive wine and female deities receive milk. Now, Romans added water to their wine before they drank it, but they always offered it to the gods undiluted. Don't put water in your wine and then offer it. That's only if you're going to drink it as a Roman. Now, I personally offer wine to both in my home, and there's only really one super hard and fast rule historically. The sources say, do not offer wine to the goddess Ceres. She was never offered wine. The sources I've read seem to say that she found it offensive in some way. But yeah, wine is generally fine for any deity except Ceres. But it's traditional to offer wine to the male deities and milk to the female deities. Now, I understand some people don't have wine in their home. Maybe you're a recovering alcoholic or something like that, and you really can't have that in your home, and that's fine. You can substitute grape juice. Your Sacra Privata is your own, so you can choose what you offer. If you really can't have wine in your house, grape juice is going to be perfectly acceptable. Just remember that when you make small changes like that, just try and keep it as close to the original as possible. So can't have wine in the house, grape juice is as close to the original. I wouldn't offer Diet Coke or something. That would be fairly disrespectful, I think. don't go there. So in addition to incense and wine, it was very common to offer libum, which is this bread-like dish you see here on the left. Now, I don't always have the time or can find the ingredients to make this, so I just go and get a fine bread, and we'll often substitute that. Baking libum is really fun, but I understand that that's not super convenient for everyone, so bread's okay. Libum, if you're interested, is made from far, which is an ancient grain similar to spelt. And so they would mix this like coarse far flour with an egg and a kind of soft fresh cheese, and bake it on bay leaves in an earthenware pot. And they sometimes put pine nuts on it. Cato the Elder gives us a fantastic recipe that you can try sometime. Just if you want to substitute, instead of far, use whole grain spelt flour, and strained ricotta cheese is a pretty good approximation of the cheese they use to do this. But if you want to use bread, that's just fine. Just get the best bread that you can find, because we want to give the gods our best that we can afford to under our own circumstances. So yeah, incense, wine, and libum or bread. Those are the three things that are the most common to sacrifice. And make sure you have something to cover your head when you sacrifice, something to drape over your head. So I was going to wear my toga to show you, but I just woke up and didn't want to drape a toga so early. But it was common to take a fold of the toga and put it over your head, like you see here in this statue of Augustus, or here you can see a sacrifice with Cornelius Lentulus. They've got the back flap of the toga over the head. That's the traditional way. It's called capite velato, which means with covered head. If you don't have a toga or don't have time to fully wrap a toga, you can use a wide scarf, a shawl, or even a clean throw blanket. When I'm not wearing my toga, I have a very nice flannel scarf that I bought specifically for this reason. And there's a specific reason that you cover your head when you sacrifice. The ancient Romans believed that if you saw a bad omen out of your peripheral vision, that could be a bad sign for the sacrifice, and you might need to start the sacrifice over, or even cancel or postpone the sacrifice to tomorrow or the next day, or the next auspicious day on the calendar. But they believe that if you don't see the omen, it can't hurt you. So you cover your head so you can only look straight ahead. You can't see anything going on here and here. So if there's a bad omen happening over here, but you can't see it, it won't affect the sacrifice. So they covered their head to keep their eyes focused and on the task at hand. If you read about public sacrifices, you'll often hear that they had aulos that flautists perform during the sacrifice, and that was also so the priest couldn't hear anything that was an ill omen. You don't need to go that far. Just cover your head so you can't see anything that could distract you or affect the sacrifice. So I've got a couple of resources here. The first QR code will take you to the ritual page on the Nova Roma wiki. They've got a lot of rituals that you can follow and suggestions to get you started. The center one, I took a piece of Laurarium art from ancient Rome and opened it in Photoshop and cleaned it up a little bit and enhanced the color. So if you want to get started but don't have a Laurarium, you can print that out and use that to get you started. And then on the right, that QR code will take you to a beginner-friendly ritual that I wrote. It's based on the one that I practice in my own home. And I try to keep it pretty close to the ritual format on the Nova Roma wiki. I took a little bit of poetic license with the wording, but all the elements and the format are the same. It's just my own flair. So you can use any of these, all of these, none of these, whatever is going to get you started, whatever you feel works best for you, use that. So that's, I hope that gives you a good overview of the core concepts of CDR and how to get started practicing. I could talk about this for 2 or 3 hours easily, but in the interest of keeping this to something that's good for a presentation, I try to keep it to just the essential ideas, but I'm happy to answer any questions if I can. Does anyone have any questions currently?
Yeah, anybody live right now that wants to ask a question, please do. Yes, on the phone?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's an excellent presentation. I'm just wondering, so presumably there's a ritual in the morning to start the day. Are there any other rituals during the day you practice?
Yes, so traditional Roman families would do a ritual in the morning and a ritual in the evening. They thought it was important to start the day and end the day, but traditionally wouldn't do any rituals while the sun wasn't up. They would typically reserve their household rituals and the public sacrifices to when the sun's up. So they would do two. You could do a midday ritual if you want to. As modern practitioners, we have we have all the responsibilities of modern life. So if you can do a ritual every day, that's wonderful. But don't feel bad if you can't do one every day. Do one as you are able. Don't let it stop you from practicing CDR. Oh, I can't do a ritual every day. I can't commit to that, so I'm just not going to do it at all. Do what you can. Sacrificing some is better than sacrificing not at all. So if you can do a ritual once a day or twice a day, that is absolutely wonderful. If you can't, just do it when you can.
Good question. Any other questions
absolutely.
from the floor?
Yes, I was just wondering if you could say a few words about Molla Salsa and if you use it and when do you use it in a household ritual context?
Mola salsa. Yes. So mola salsa is used for consecrating an offering. So you would typically present an offering, sprinkle it, and then burn it. Or in the case of like public rituals, you would take the sacrificial animal, and as part of the ritual, you would dedicate it. You would run a knife along it, sprinkle it with mola salsa, and then butcher it. So that was part of the ritual for consecration. Mola salsa is a mixture of toasted far and salt, and it was in Rome made by the Vestal Virgins to be used in ritual. You don't have to use that in household ritual. Personally, what I do is I will place the sacrifice in the offering dish, and then I will sprinkle it with a little bit of salt. I have made some mola salsa for doing public sacrifices, but just be aware that in ancient Rome, mola salsa was exclusively made by the Vestal Virgins. We don't have Vestal Virgins, so we can't make the exact mola salsa that they had. So, keep in mind that you can make your own. You can buy some. If there are a few places online, you can consecrate your offerings with just some coarse salt in your own. That's perfectly fine too.
All right. Any other questions from the floor? I've got one probably to finish this off. Is it on the phone again?
Well, yeah. Just wondering what have you found to be some of the best resources, either written or online?
Yeah, the Nova Roma wiki is great for getting you started on rituals. I'll go ahead and move to the next slide here. I've got a slide for additional readings that I would recommend. These are some great books to get you the fundamental ideas. These books are all academic in nature. I listed them alphabetically here, but I would recommend starting with an introduction to Roman religion, and then perhaps moving into the Romans and their gods in the age of Augustus, and then going into things like a companion to Roman religion or religions of Rome, and going from there. But these are some books that will talk in depth on the fundamental ideas. Just keep in mind that these are written from a scholarly perspective, not the perspective of someone practicing their religion.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, that's very good. One question I'll ask generically for some of the other citizens who aren't able to join us live right now. What is some of the advice to those citizens who wish to participate quite wholeheartedly in Nova Roma society? And I guess as we've come to appreciate, the Cultus Deorum Romanum is very much integrated in with Roman society and Roman life. So what's your advice to give to those citizens who perhaps they only worship one of the monolithic gods, or perhaps they're even only agnostic? What are your advice to those citizens who still want to be able to participate, whereas I guess some of the traditions of the beliefs may not completely align with their own current value or belief system?
Sure. So in Nova Roma, you can practice whatever religion you would like. Just as in ancient Rome, as long as what you're doing doesn't affect the public cult and the public sacrifices being done, then it's all good. You can participate in these Roman games just as a way to honor ancient Rome. Participate in something that ties you to the past. We have the public cults. So we have the public priesthood, that if you're a citizen, when we make sacrifices, regardless of what your religion is, if you're a Roman citizen, you are a beneficiary of these sacrifices. So the priests are performing sacrifices on your behalf. You're benefiting from them as a Roman. You don't have to believe in CDR, but I would say, however you want to participate, be it through something that interests you historically or whatever else. It's just fun, right? We have a good time. I encourage you to learn more about CDR because it can help you be a better Roman and understand what's going on, because CDR was inextricably linked to Roman life. The Roman ruling class, the magistrates and so forth, were often also the priests. So Roman law and Roman religious law were very closely modeled after one another. So even if you're not interested in practicing CDR, learning about it is going to help you understand the history of Rome and help you understand why we're doing what we're doing today in Nova Roma. So if you don't want to practice it, I think everyone can get something out of its study, or else why are you here? Why are you in Nova Roma?
That's a very good summary, and I can certainly appreciate that. And look, from my position as a praetor of Nova Roma this year, I want to be a better cultor. I want to be a better practitioner of the Cultus Deorum Romanum, and do what is required of me in the true original Roman context, I guess. Certainly tonight has been a great part of my own education as well. Look, we'll have some more opportunities for questions from those that are live towards the end of the after the recording has stopped. So if you've still got questions, hang on to those. We'll come to those in a minute. But I just want to take this opportunity right now to say, look, that presentation was perfect. That was very valuable. It was a very succinct and yet detailed introduction to the Cultus Deorum Romanum. Look, it removed a lot of the myth and misnomers about what the CDR is, and it was a great overview of what it really means to make a sacrifice to the gods. What it means to build a relationship with the gods. So that was good. And it's certainly a great summary and a guide with the approach to household ceremony. So that was a great introduction there. And look, from my perspective as a governor, I'm going to be recommending this to all new citizens as an introduction, because I think that was just really well framed. And so I thank you on behalf of the province, and no doubt through many in Nova Roma who may benefit from this presentation in the future. Gratias Tibiago, thank you. That's perfect. It's exactly what we were looking for. So thanks, B, to you for sure.
Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed putting the presentation together and being here. Like I said, I could go on for 2 or 3 hours if you allowed me to.
And look, certainly, as I said, because this is going to be a recurring forum, perhaps we can have you back and we can talk more on various subject matter. To round out our session today, I just wanted to cover some more specific strain aspects. Please stay on the line too. There, Publius Aurelius, because there's some other things that you may contribute to in the last two agenda items here. Now, if I can grab control of the share screen there, I'm going to bring up my screen here. Again, to show some of the resources that we've talked about and covered, at least from this provincial perspective. Now, I think if I select share screen? Let's have a look. Do you have to stop sharing screen first there, Aurelie?
That is a great question. Let me see here.
Through the free conference call, I think you should be. Yep, there we go. So now if I have a go here, yeah, here we go. I'm going to go share my desktop. So hopefully this will come up for everybody. Is everybody seeing that now? Good. All right. So what we're looking at here is the Provincia Australia main landing page for the province. It's about halfway down here. If you look, you can either go through the contents here or you can just scroll past halfway. You'll see this table of recommended reading and quick links. So over the past 12 months or so, I've been trying to collate all the key and vital and important information pages from around the Nova Roma website, because there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot to learn, lot to take in, particularly for the context of our forum this evening is the section on the Roman religion over here. And we've actually talked about, and I think our great guest speaker referenced some of these links as well. So, for example, information on daily rituals, a guide to sacrifice, simple rituals for starters. These links are available here with some other good information. So I think once people have watched this presentation, they can then go echo and grow their knowledge through some of these other links here. But actually, that was really good. I was very pleased to see some of those books that you put up and some of the recommended readings. And so I myself will certainly look to acquire some of those. I think I've actually got 3 of them, which is good. So it appears I'm on the right track. I'll see if I can get a copy of the other 2. So that's really good. So for those citizens looking to expand on their knowledge, particularly from the Nova Roma's perspective, head to our provincial homepage there and there'll be some good information. Really the last thing I guess I sort of wanted to talk about, maybe before we open up the floor, is to talk a little bit about the Nova Roma Camillus, or the priesthood program, just a quick 5 minutes perhaps. And obviously we have somebody who is a Camillus right now. And I guess I'll bring up this page in particular in the application for priesthood. So maybe if I can go back to Publius Aurelius, could you give us a really quick, maybe 2 to 5 minute summary on the Camillus program in Nova Roma, what it means for participants, and then perhaps how one may enter into that program and what they could gain from it?
Sure. So Camillus means priest in training. Traditionally in ancient Rome, you do things like hold the scroll for the priest who is reading the ceremony, and you would study under them and learn. When you become a Camillus, you submit the application on the website. You don't have to choose what deity you want to serve right away, but it's good to have an idea because you are going to be serving one deity. You're going to be studying one cult. You don't have to learn the cults of all the gods. That's a lot of information. That's a lot of responsibility. So just as in ancient Rome, you will eventually choose one god to serve. Like I'm going to be serving Hercules. So you submit the application. It's reviewed by the Collegium Pontificum, our highest religious authority, and if you're admitted, you enter a period where you do a lot of reading. You converse with whoever is leading the program. For me, it's Hortensia Faustina. She trains the new Camilli. She's great. We do a lot of readings. We do video calls to discuss them. We talk about it a lot on the Discord server, and you learn the fundamentals, and then you start researching your cult. So I've been researching the cult of Hercules, learning all about it. The temples when he came to Rome, all about his worship in Rome, when his important sacrifices are throughout the year, and I'm learning all of that because once I am promoted to sacerdos, or priest, I'm going to be seen as the authority in Nova Roma on his cult, and I'm going to be in charge of making the important annual sacrifices to Hercules for all Nova Romans. So it's a responsibility. So you learn the sacrifice forms. As a Camillus, I performed this year's annual sacrifices to Hercules already, and then I study, and here soon I'll be taking a written test that Cornelius Lentulus is going to be giving, and if I pass that written test, then the Collegium Pontificum will vote to raise me to sacerdos. So it's a process that can take at least 6 months, probably longer because it's a lot of study, and you have to coordinate times to video chat and all that. So it's not a quick process, but it is very thorough. And I encourage anyone interested to look into it and apply online.
That's a great summary, and I thank you very much for that. And certainly from the perspective as a governor of the province, I'm very encouraging of the citizens here in the region to explore the Camillus program. Certainly for us, we would like to grow the level and the availability of expertise in the CDR, in the Cultus Deorum, for the benefit of everybody in the region, because we're quite far removed from Rome and Europe and a large bulk of the Nova Roma citizens in the other parts of the world. So the more expertise and knowledge that we can develop out here, the better. So those citizens in the province who are interested in the CDR and for developing their knowledge and then helping to spread that knowledge, I'm very encouraging and supportive of the citizens to look at and enter the Camillus program. As you stated there, Publius Aurelius, there's a little bit of work there, some study, some readings, but that will all eventually pay off, which is good. And one day, it is my hope, once I finish some of my current studies, I too would like to eventually enter the Camillus program, where I can do some more in-depth research, and that will partner with some of my future Latin studies, probably in the year about 2025, I think. Once my current course of studies finishes, so we're doing lots of Latin and religious study going forward. So that's what I plan to do anyway. But no, look, that's really good. It's given us a lot to think about provincially, and it's given us a great framework now with the presentation tonight about setting that foundation going forwards, and certainly as direction, as objective for me as governor, we're going to continue these forums, continue a local discussion on providing resources to each other, growing that knowledge in the CDR, helping people through the Camillus program eventually, and hopefully have you back to discuss further in in-depth detail about the sacrifice to the gods. So that'll probably start to round out our session, and we'll end the recording shortly, unless there's some final remarks that people want to say for the live video around the room. Any final remarks from you, from our guest speaker?
Yeah, thank you all for having me. I would be happy to return and speak more, perhaps even walk through the steps and lead a sacrifice. That would be really cool. I'm really happy that you invited me, and I had a great time. So thank you.
Perfect, and thank you again for joining us so early, your local time. Yeah, very much appreciated here. All right, well, I'm going to stop the recording here, but for those that are live and online, please feel free to stay around if you've got some further questions. But for everybody watching the recording in the future, thank you for your participation in watching this, and please reach out to my Praetorium if you're local, if you've got any questions, or, of course, to our great guest speaker this evening, Publius Aurelius Barbatus, if you've got some other questions, particularly concerning Hercules. But for now, we'll stop the recording, and until next time, Walete.